You're still watching the BDTV Breakfast Show, and of course, I'm doing this right now with Mr.
Onyeka Valentine.
Right,
Right
and we're
here.
ready for the newspaper review this morning, which is Monday, June 16th. We want to see what's on the front pages of the papers today. But, before we talk about the papers, let me start by asking you how your weekend was spent.
Well, I would say fantastic. Like they say, there's power in the tongue, but more importantly, haven't heard what's going on in Benue State and the Pope, responding. It made me ask myself a question. What is the price of human lives? So how will I catch a good weekend when I see my fellow Nigerians dying? Papers.
Right. Let's see what we have on the front pages this morning. I mean, we must really confess that it's really been a very sober past week, from the crashes in India to, the killings in Benue State. It's almost as if every morning you pick up the papers or you check the news, there's one tragic news or the other. And you just have to just stay grateful, for every opportunity you have at life. But let's see what we have on the front pages this morning. Let's start off with the Business Day paper. This is the Business Day Breakfast Show.
Right.
Now, of course, you have on the front page of the Business Day paper, it says Nigeria's long dance with devaluation ends in reform-driven float. And then there's also another story on the left hand side of the Business Day paper this morning. But let's start off by talking about what we have on that bigger story. The other smaller story says stronger naira seen as oil prices up on Middle East tensions. FX reserves and petrol prices to rise.
Well, if you look at it closely, the first story there, okay, about the devaluation and reforms and everything. More importantly, if you look at it, you realize that for what it's worth, it's as if we have not really learned from the past. I believe that the sooner we call a spade, the better. If we want our economy to be better, we need to begin to look in depth to find out why all this devaluation back and forth. Okay, I don't want to go into the part where we know it affects Nigerians, especially businesses on the daily, entrepreneurs, and people who are struggling. The major thing is, if we're looking to the upstream, we want you guys to make the right decision so that below they can actually thrive. Businesses are folding up. All right, businesses are having a tough time this period, and so to hear things like that, you begin to ask yourself a question. Okay, will it be in favor of Nigerians or otherwise? But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
And then there's also the other story that says stronger naira seen as oil prices up on Middle East tensions, and also speaking about the fact that FX reserves and petrol prices are to rise. And then this is just basically all about the ongoing war between Israel and Iran in the Middle East, which has also triggered a surge in global oil prices, which is expected to strengthen the naira and bolster Nigeria's foreign economy. So sometimes when you have a story, when we have economic, or let's talk about wars and all of that, we need to talk about the impact that they have on the economy, whether positively or negatively. But this time around, the war in the Middle East, it's sort of an advantage to us.
I mean, let's be honest. If you look at it, there is a cascading effect. We, as oil producing nation, we might not be number one or number two, but we rank within the front line where we can say, look, we are supposed to be a wealthy nation. So when there is a major impact that affects oil prices, like what's happening right now in Iran, which is unfortunate because people are still asking questions, why would Israel attack Iran? Based on some level of hypothesis or some level of assumption that they're enriching their, there's a nuclear enrichment going on. Now, let's even leave that part because that's a far more in-depth story. But let's go to the reason why oil prices might either favor Nigeria or not. It's simple. If we have more production of our crude oil in Nigeria, if NNPC works 100%, which obviously is not at the moment, if they allow people like Dangote, right, to also do his own part, I don't see a reason why we should have to export our crude oil out there and then end up importing the byproduct like PMS and diesel. So if, for instance, not put this way, not for instance, right now Iran is facing some serious issues and they're like number 2 of oil producers, in the world. So if they're ranked number 2, if the war most definitely that has just broken out between Israel and Iran continues, Nigeria naturally is supposed to enjoy, it's just a fact, because then people turn to us to buy more crude. But it's not like that. So what is wrong? Why are we seeing that, imbalance? When naturally, when your competitor is facing challenges, you should naturally enjoy the dividends. Say, okay, we're making more money from this. But reverse is the case. Where, in fact, over the radio, on my way to work here, I overheard one of the radio presenters saying something that there's a big tendency that we might experience, fuel scarcity. I'm like, why? Why should we? How does that affect us? We're an oil producing country.
Right.
And so if we have this crude oil, we should naturally say, look, we're making more money. So if our GDP is, if the money we make in a month is X amount, it's only natural that more buyers will come to us. So we'll make more money. But is reverse the case? If so, why? If not, why? This particular question is out there for people who are in the NNPC, those who are in the Ministry of Petroleum and all that stuff. They should answer those questions. Again, we don't control what's happening in the Middle East, okay? But it begs the question, why is it that in 2025 we are still exporting our crude oil to collect refined product, PMS and diesel? I'm not saying that we're not making money from it by selling crude oil, we're making money. But we should be able to harness our own here instead of spending money importing fuel and crude oil, fuel and diesel. Let's be able to come together, assist Dangote, right? Also make sure our own refinery works well. So with these two at the same time, we have no business to complain about fuel scarcity or whatever it is. Now that at least, the world hasn't totally shifted away from fossil fuel and diesel and petroleum and PMS and byproducts, we should enjoy it fully. At some point, yes, so subsidy has been removed, we get it. But the fact that there is now issue going up within the Middle East as affecting one of the biggest oil producers in the world, I think our oil prices and our fuel prices should now come down. You should go to the filling station, and you buy fuel at a reduced cost. Now, meanwhile, we will now sell on a higher cost when it comes to, crude oil to the international world. Now, the economists, they know what I'm talking about. We're just anchors, trying to see how best we can present it to the public, right?
But I mean, to catch up on just getting fuller glimpse to the stories and just more in-depth analysis, you need to grab a copy of the Business Day paper this morning. Justice has been done to these stories, talking about strengthening of the Naira due to the Middle East crisis. Also, the other story that we have there as well, you need to catch or grab a copy of the Business Day paper anywhere close to you, or just search for www.businessday.ng, where you can see more stories, even so much more. Like we say, if you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with Business Day. All right, let's see what we have on the Punch paper this morning. The Punch paper this morning, pretty simple, straight to the point. The story that says 2027 Tinubu Shetima alliance under fire. It says rift deepens in APC over 2027 power formula. NAS caucus backs Shetima and governors split. Then on the top side, It says Dangote launches nationwide fuel distribution amid tanker blockade. And that continues on page 29 of the Punch papers. Brent bounce, Nigerian crude hits $77 as Israel-Iran tensions boiled. We already spoke about that. But let's just quickly speak on Tinubu. Then, of course, you see another story, it's more commercial in nature. Dangote Petroleum Refinery to distribute PMS and diesel with free logistics nationwide. And then it said, and then in the middle it says this initiative commences on August 15, 2025. KYC, which is know your customer, and registration will close in 60 days. So for those people who want to distribute, they might need to go ahead and start embark on the KYC process now, because it will close in 60 days, which is from June 16 to August 15. And says of course, they are thanking His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his continued support, especially through three things were listed here: Naira for Crude scheme, Nigeria First policy, and the presidential compressed natural gas initiative. Some of the key benefits of this bonanza, so to speak, is delivery is free throughout Nigeria, credit facility for bulk buyers supported with bank guarantee, total elimination of logistics and transportation costs, lower fuel prices at the point of sale, improved fuel accessibility for both urban and rural communities, enhanced environmental sustainability through optimized delivery systems, support for local economies and businesses, which is what you were speaking about, strengthen long-term energy security and national efficiency, and it will also increase government revenue, and you can now buy high-quality vehicles and equipment because we produce Euro V and VI standards. So obviously they're mentioning some of the benefits of purchasing this fuel, and I think it's interesting because they said purchase minimum of 500,000 liters and get another 500,000 liters on credit for 2 weeks,
Elizabeth,
under bank guarantee. Wow.
Two things. One, it is no news that Nigerians are incentive driven.
Yes, we
are. And so one of the best ways to encourage this kind of scheme or whatever it is to throw out some level of incentive added to it. But that aside, I think we should let me start with the most important one first. Right? 2027. We are still 2025. And so what is the idea of trying to push hard to say, okay, let's begin to plan, let them begin to plan for 2027 election? Of course they'll come under fire. Right? They'll come under fire because already we are in fire already. How are we in the fire? I will tell you. People are dying in Benue. Meanwhile, they are sending soldiers to Port Harcourt because that's where oil is coming from. I understand where the nation's income comes from, needs to be protected. But what about the lives of other people? So that area of their bid and plan is coming under fire. Of course, to come under fire because people are scared for their lives. Lives and properties are not being protected 100% in Benue. So we hear that the chief of staff, is planning on relocating to Benue temporarily so that they can tackle this thing. I heard over the radio. We also hear the commissioner of police also. They're saying, look, although there's a video, I don't know if we have it, him talking about the head of the snake has been cut off. So what you're seeing right now is the body of the snake that's making that noise, meaning to say that they've gotten whoever the ringleader is. So right now, it's just the people who are the followers are the ones causing problems to get attention. Let's see if his analysis will hold water. But people are dying. And like they say, when two elephants fight, we don't know if it's political that's going on because, we know it's an APC state. But when two elephants fight, who suffers? The grass.
The grass.
In this case, this grass are human beings. Human beings are dying continuously in Benue. Let us start with that first. Let security of lives and property be guaranteed before we begin to talk about you want to run for 2027. Again, I'm not a politician. We're only anchors, but we bring these things to light as journalists and broadcasters so that people can begin to see, where our level of priority is. Let us prioritize properly the lives and livelihood plus properties be 100% protected. This is the only way international investors can come in. And mind you, as much as we don't want boots on ground, right? Of course, our military has said no, we don't want boots on ground. They can tackle the issue. The issue is not bigger than us. Well, if it's not bigger than you, then what is happening? Let us get these people that are causing chaos and sending young people to their early graves. Get them out there. Stop them in their tracks. Otherwise, we will have a nation but it's not actually united, and that will be a bigger challenge.
That would be a big disaster. But let's also speak on the alliance between Tinubu and Shettima ahead of the 2027 elections, which is currently under fire. Obviously, there seems to be more detractors right now against that alliance.
Most definitely.
Why do you think that is happening?
Well, I mean, what I think is more or less inconsequential, really.
Right.
It is what is really happening. Let's give our listeners the opportunity to think it out. But if we must weigh into this thing, right? Like I said before, we have, like people said, Tinubu and Shettima's move is being put under fire. It is part of we saying, let us roll out the scorecards. Let's see how far so far. We did a documentary like that.
Of course,
right?
We did.
So that people can actually vent, their mind and see exactly how it has affected them in 2 years so far. And like Professor Killer said in that video, remember, he said, look, that the government should stop talking in, tenses, rather talk in the now. Not saying, okay, what we will do. No, as future tense, talk in the now. Say what we have done and what we're doing now. We understand a lot of projects are being commissioned, like the Coastal Road. We understand new, event centers are being commissioned. We understand that. But the bigger question now is that, and that's the reason why I think, their movement for 2027 is coming under fire. Because 2 years has come and gone. And Nigerians are saying, look, most Nigerians are complaining.
Not what we signed
exactly.
up for.
Even those who even voted for him said, look, this is not what we signed up for. We are feeling more of the brunt than we are really enjoying it. But again, the president has promised and assured renewed hope, saying people should calm down. Farabale. That
Did you see his speech on Democracy Day?
Oh, I watched part of it.
It was something else. Like on a lighter note, I do think that sometimes maybe the writers for the president, they genuinely, intentionally put out some lines
that are
to
questionable.
Just stir like meme-worthy lines to just stir
to shake the table.
Yeah, to stir the citizens and the audience, because I couldn't believe it. When he says we want agriculture to be more sexy. Did you see that? How come you've not seen these things?
I'm laughing
no
because
jokes here.
Because I'm laughing not because it's funny. I'm laughing because I expected something worse than that.
You expected something worse than that.
Because
what can be worse than that?
Let's be honest. We're talking about agriculture and it being sexy. It doesn't correlate, most definitely. That line, something wrong with that line.
Something's wrong with that line. Are we being honest
But
now?
let us start with what's going on with whoever it is that is the media, attaché, or the media person who is in charge of making sure such write-ups go out. Do you think that they will stupidly go and then write that thing? There's something that we're not talking about. There's something else that we are not seeing.
Like
but whichever it is, you said maybe this could be like a small, what's it called again? A spoon feed, so that people can hold on something to talk about something.
Yeah.
Do you think that's also part of it too? Give them something to talk about.
No, but and that's where I find it to be problematic, because we're talking about solutions now, not giving us something to talk about. Like we as Nigerians, we like to have fun. So it's been everywhere. Everyone has been saying, "Oh, I want Nigeria to be more." No, it wasn't. It was live on television.
These days, you can never tell which is which.
No, it was
I'm
live
not making a case for him.
I understand, but this particular one was live on tele. I don't want to mention on the television.
But again, agriculture could also be sexy too.
No, but seriously, like if you're saying you want to ramp up agriculture or make it better, but just that line, that word in with agriculture, like, well, are we being serious
I'm
now?
sure you know
What
I'm being
happened here?
sarcastic.
I know, and then there was even so much more, but I think that was the
Right.
line that really like held, like
Caught
really,
everybody.
like what from where to where.
Something's wrong.
And I remember a friend of mine on radio even had to do something and says, you know what, since we're talking about things being more sexy now, I can't even believe we're talking about it on morning on a morning show, but it was like, you know what, we need Nigeria to be more
more serious.
Let's use that word.
But seriously, sometimes you throw in a bit of fun to it. But in this case, it wasn't funny. But I laughed because they say Nigeria sometimes it presents it as a movie, and so you look for the funny side of things. But in this case, I think that maybe such scripts should be read properly prior to the day.
And he said it with so much.
Prior to the, and then not just also have somebody else to make sure, the teleprompter, whatever, is working properly. Because I'm sure, normally when heads of state are giving the speech, they have this transparent teleprompter left and right,
Right.
So if something had gone wrong, it was a technical issue, then whoever it is that did that should be called to book or fired, as the case may be. I mean, I know a good example is when some of our colleagues in the business of media, they make mistakes, and people this person makes a mistake, So if such mistakes are made by the president of Nigeria, which is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I don't think, again, I don't want to make a case for him, but for whatever it is, for whatever has caused that, it is tied to either technical faults or it can't be helped now. So let's don't go there.
Or maybe not, because it was really
glaring.
It was read so well. There wasn't any shadow of doubt or correction, or
that when word was added to that
yes,
script.
When you say something and then you have that like,
what have I just read?
There wasn't any of that, and it was so in tune. Yes, agriculture can be, but you don't expect that in an official setting, like what I was saying. But it was really written. You'll probably see the video after this, but I mean, we have to go now. There's also another story in Vanguard paper which says that President Tinubu commissions Greater Abuja water supply. So it's been an era of commissioning of the ICC, different commissioning.
So
here and there.
We are seeing an era of commissioning, one after the other. Most of these projects were maybe started maybe towards the end of the last democratic whatever it is, maybe when what's the name again? I keep forgetting. What's that? Okay, so let's put it this way.
Right.
If, for instance, we have these projects being commissioned continuously like that, the monies that we are spending to do all this stuff, if we remove some of the money and put into other areas that will generate more, more money, as the case may be, more inflow, it will help us out. So I don't want to put down those projects. I'm saying one after the other, back to back. Should we slow down a little bit? Healthcare needs attention also. Security needs attention also. Do we have enough money for it to also throw around these things? I'm not saying that it's bad to have projects, but look, there are 7 points agenda. It's always there. I've not heard healthcare being given so much light of the day, the way all these projects are being put in place. So it begs the question, are they systematically designed so that way 2027 would have a spearhead?
All right, that's a question to be answered another day. That's a question to be answered another day, but that's as much as we can take on the newspaper review segment here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. But before we go, let's see what we have on the cartoon of the day today on the BusinessDay paper. And
it's quite interesting.
That's a building which is not really a building, more like a what are those?
So it looks like a building that was uncompleted building that wasn't properly constructed has fallen on
the person who was
exactly, and the person there, and it looks as if the person is representing regular Nigerians.
Yeah, or the media, because the person has a microphone.
He has a microphone, that's another thing.
Yes, and the person is putting on green, which is the color of Nigerian flag.
So does this mean that democracy is trying to shut the media off?
Yes, so what we
freedom
can
of
see,
speech?
I think so. Because we see that crashing on completed building has is a democracy building. Obviously, like democracy is what is written there. And then you see that person who is holding a microphone, which I think that for him to be holding a microphone, then is the media says in Nigeria another building is closed, is reporting.
Oh, okay.
So that's a media person reporting, and that person is also crash coming down under the crash. So it's like in Nigeria another building is collapsing, about 199 million souls trapped. So the media is reporting the fact that democracy is crumbling, and obviously the media is also part of the crumble.
Most definitely. Well, whichever it is, it's cartoon of the day.
Yeah.
The idea of it is supposed to help you see that we can lighten up the mood when things are so, when the politics or the polity or whatever they call it is already tense, and you can call it with a knife. At some point, you say, okay, let's slow it down. So
I
we
think that's
interpret
really
this
profound. That's a really profound cartoon there.
It is. Right.
All right, that's as much as we can take this morning on the newspaper review segment. My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And I'm Onyeka Valentine.
Stay with us for the big story.